Hello, hello. We have another 30 minutes of interesting discussion. Let's take it as an interesting dialogue. I'm Anna, I'm Busy Lead, and we will try to share some insights with our audience how to gain usable dApps. So let's start. Thank you for the intro, Warren. Still, this is my tradition. I start the panel with the question, why we should listen to you for another 30 minutes. Don't be humble. Share some interesting facts that will make our audience listen to us offline and online. Why we should listen to you for another 30 minutes.
All right, hi. My name is Tomer. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Addressable. Addressable is a Web3 marketing platform based on data. And the one thing I want to say about this panel is it's brilliant choice of people, so we can actually debate, and we're not going to agree on everything, and this is why it's going to be very interesting.
Compliment to Sweat Economy team. They're very good at people. Let's go.
Hi, my name is Melody. I'm one of the co-founders of Spartan Group. We are an Asia-based investment fund and also advisory group. I've been in venture probably the past 15 years and TradFi probably for another 4 or 5 years. So I fell in love with crypto in probably 2014, 2015. So yeah, it's been in the space for a long time. I've been working very closely with the Sweat team and even coming up with a lot of ideas about walking into the billion users because they had a lot of users, right? How to on-ramp the billions. So yeah, I'm very happy to see to be here again and talking about exact same issue we've been trying to solve and build for the past many years, as long as I can remember being in crypto.
Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Michael Brink. I'm head of product at Sweat. I've been around here for most of the day, so some of you are hearing this a few times. And the last year and a half, I've been racking my brain with two things. The one is building scalable infrastructure to accommodate this. And the other has been honing in on beautiful UI and UX to make crypto fun and accessible and easy. And I think, Tomer, we have a billion reasons to discuss if we're going to talk about a billion users. But I think the thing that I'm interested in discussing today is whether the idea of TVL as a metric is really dead and consumer crypto is really the way we should be thinking about things.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Robby. I work at Animoca Brands, and we are a games business. That's our core product offering. We make games, and we're also one of the most active investors in the Web3 space. So I think to answer your question, Anna, specifically, with all the products that we've made and all the investments we've made, I think I can safely say we've probably made more mistakes than anybody else in Web3 over the years.
Special question for you.
So hopefully,
Be prepared.
hopefully we've learned a thing or two as a result.
Hi everyone, I'm Isabella. I'm the co-founder of DappOS. DappOS is an intent execution network. I guess what I can bring to this panel is that I previously worked at Google and work on multiple products that have billion users. So maybe there's some experiences, some things that we can learn from some successful Web2 companies, and I hope that could, be the nutrients for Web3.
So, Robby, you almost stole my question because we already had interesting panel from Oleg. He explained us the problem. Then we discussed the investment perspective together with your colleague, Melody, Kelvin. So now I want you to share first your biggest mistakes. Because, for example, Animoca brand, you are an interesting example in the market. You invested so much in dApps, and now you're such active in infrastructure. So please share your insights based on your mistakes. And Isabella, I know you have this Web2 experience. Still, you enter in Web3 space with DappOS. So we would love to learn more about your mistakes as well. Guys, What are the biggest mistakes that maybe our audience will avoid in the future?
Okay, so I guess to start, when we started our journey in Web3, it was kind of the early, well, it was at the beginning of NFTs, essentially, when we could start making content. And so at that time, I think one of the things we spent a lot of time doing for the first 2 or 3 years is essentially every time we made a game, we would have to make new tech, right? Because we'd launch on an L1 that didn't have a good marketplace, so we'd have to make a marketplace, or we'd have to make a wallet, or and we kept having to build stuff. And that's actually something that I think people starting today have the benefit of there being a whole ecosystem of now third-party tools and products and stuff that they can integrate, so they can focus just on their consumer application. So that's a big win. I think we also thought a lot about, and still do think a lot about, tokenomics and about how we can design really good sustainable economies, because designing open economies but based on a fixed supply is quite an art and a science at the same time. So one mistake we made at the beginning, no offense to the world of economists, was we hired economists to help us figure out how to run an economy. But the problem with economists is that economists think of users as rational actors, and users are not rational because users are people. And users will buy and sell stuff and respond to incentives sometimes based on emotion and not just on the fact that, well, if this one makes me more money, I will go and do that. People are not that simple. And so actually the amount of work creating these economies is much more complex than we originally thought it was back in 2017.
I know you made a lot of noise in VC fields. You have Sequoia, you have many other brilliant VCs. Can you make some noise in consumer field? Can you share the DappOS ambitions and mistakes?
Sorry, is it a mistake of DappOS or mistake of mine?
You can share both, by the way.
I can start with myself. Honestly, I think my biggest mistake entering Web3 space is that I'm overly optimistic. Previously, I thought I think back 2 years ago, I'm based in Bay Area in San Francisco. So 2 years ago, I think the whole Bay Area was a hot place for crypto, and everybody's doing tokens and all kinds of crypto projects were blooming, like NFT, DAOs, DeFi's, everything. And I was very inspired by that because I see the passion, I see the future, and I start doing some research myself. And it took me half an hour to build my first wallet, like to create my first MetaMask wallet. I think that is I could go deeper, but I think overall, I've been overly optimistic about a new technology when it gets very hot. And I think people in a certain location, they're always surrounded by the information in that location. Like all the VCs are there, all the founders are there, and there was this ultra hype over there that keep you blind and make you feel blind from like more realistic things, such as user adoption. I had no idea what user adoption was at that time, and that leads to why we want to build DappOS. Yeah.
Michael, I know that you gained really nice traction, at least in your ecosystem. Still, I believe you have some mistakes that might be useful for our audience.
Yeah, so many. First one, don't ever deploy code on a Friday afternoon. Ever. Second, don't respond to trolls on Discord. I find that so difficult because they just don't get it. I'm kidding. I would say the biggest mistake that I've made, but that's probably also evident in our wallet, and that we're getting to a point now that we want to fix, is not addressing the problem of complicated onboarding sooner and making onboarding as easy and as seamless as possible. And I know this sounds like a relatively boring thing to say. Onboarding's been an issue for the last 10 years in crypto. No one seems to get it right. Users are still losing their passphrases. They're losing their emails. They don't know where they've stored it. But we're blessed to have a team of very competent data scientists that can model all these flows and find the nuances and find out what's going wrong. And it's kind of pretty possible to be a data-first company that's making fact-based decisions, as opposed to playing whack-a-mole with what goes wrong. And I think looking at what works and what's going to get masses onboarded into crypto and providing an experience that's likable to Web2, like abstracting your keys to something like a social key, something identifiable like your Apple ID, is something that solves the problem of just getting users into their wallet quickly and seamlessly, in the same way that a crypto native would have no problem creating a MetaMask wallet and understand what's going on. So I think getting the entry point of a user's lifecycle sorted out would be something that could have been addressed sooner. Yeah.
A bit pessimistic, but okay, let's go ahead. Melody.
Yeah, I think mine are a little bit similar, I think, to Isabella. Like, I think my biggest mistake personally, and sometimes I bring that to professional, work as well, is the timing. My first startup that I did was building mobile application when, if I remember, it was 2010, right? I looked around and the WeChat wasn't even invented yet. It was way too early. I had this idea, I got too excited about technology too soon, and I already know what I want to build, but then look around, right? Half of the people don't have smartphones yet. And I think it goes similar. I do think that makes you a good investor, but not necessarily sometimes a good founder, because you might not time that product market fit soon enough. But maybe as an investor, you can see the trend earlier, and you can start, deploying capital and trying out different founders and different ideas sooner. But I do find that when you're building products, actually getting revenue from users, I think timing is a really big, it's a big thing. You have to get it right. And sometimes I do make that mistake. And I also feel that I actually want another thing. I feel like when I'm looking at technology and also when we talk about consumer apps, I recently just realized that we are aiming so low. I think we're aiming like matching Web2 experiences. I think at least we need to aim 10x. If we aim 10x, maybe we get 5. We should really be aiming 20x, and maybe we can get 10. And then maybe people will move over and then pay us a premium. I think if we don't have the confidence we can deliver a 10x increase or improvement on the fun or the experience or whatever it is, I don't even think we should go for it. So I think that's one thing that I felt like I really underestimated, because the adoption of consumers is way, way harder than actually building some infrastructure. But yeah, I guess that's some of the lessons.
If we have builders, please don't be sad. We don't underestimate your work as well, but I'm absolutely agree with you.
No, because I think if we don't have the ambition to be 10x, we're going to lower our expectation. If the founder thinks they can get away with 2x, they're not good enough. So we need to tell them they need to be 10x. So the ones that are like, oh, I can't be 10x, then you really shouldn't be a founder, because it's really, really hard to build a new consumer experience that replacing will be better than what it is today.
Thank you, Melody. Tomer, I know that you track so many analytics and you have so many dApps to improve themselves. Can you name the biggest mistakes of the dApps, please?
Yes, I can start with our own mistakes, because it's of course more of an emotional experience that we faced. So as a company that addresses businesses, we're a B2B company that gives a marketing platform. We started as 3 co-founders who are data geeks. So we came from AI and big data for many, many years, and we said, okay, what's the problem in crypto? Nobody knows who are those wallets, who are the people behind the wallets. Nobody knows how to do anything with those wallets, even if they buy with you. What do they do? So we thought at the beginning, if we just have some of those wallets let's say we aimed for 20 million. If we have 20 million of those wallets actually identifiable or communicatable in some way or addressable in some way, then everybody will be able to grow in the industry. And we came with a data approach. We just have to find the data. We work very hard for a year to find who's behind those wallets in a way that is privacy preserving. So it's like ad IDs or Twitter IDs or Reddit IDs, things that are not actual names, but it's communicatable. And we thought, hey, we have the silver bullet that solves all the problems in crypto. And then nobody purchased that. So why is that? And that's a big mistake, because thinking about just the tech, of course, is one of the biggest fallacies of product-led startups. You think the product or this little tech over there is magical, and everybody will buy that. So after a year of a lot of effort, nobody purchased that. Even though we could tell how you can build an audience for advertising for the users of Uniswap. And that's because the marketers, our clients, some of the people here in the audience, didn't want just an audience. They want a campaign. They wanted to actually build the creative and to build the actual motion and the movement and try a lot of things. And all of their experience in marketing is different than just building audiences, right? Your marketers here know that you don't just build audiences and that's it. You need all the ingredients of the marketing motion in place. So as a company, young company, we had to raise more money, get the full marketing experience actually solved, meaning that you can actually create the creative, the campaign, and the audience that is actually the right audience, and actually test a lot of hypotheses inside different countries, different audiences. Of course, when you do this in crypto language, it's more accurate. You find people who buy certain things in certain countries. And now our customers, and that was a huge mistake for a young startup, so we had to actually grow and build all of that missing piece of making the marketer's life very familiar to what they know before. Because in Facebook, they build an audience, put the creative, put the different types of A/B tests, then ship different campaigns and see what's working and what's not. And this is what we had to build eventually. And it's a huge mistake of being a tech person. You think that the tech will make it all work, right? It's not. And that's, I think, also leading to your question, the problem with all the crypto dApps that we are marketing. They come to us and say, hey, why don't you ship our token and our new product? We're launching next month. We're like, okay, what do you have in place? What ingredients do you have in place? They say, well, we have a product, and that's it. You don't have any knowledge about who are the customers, where are they going to come from, what are we planning, no landing page, no funnel, no different types of social presence, nothing. It's a product, and we think that a lot of people will love it. And we have to teach them what we had to actually learn ourselves, which is you have to do this customer development for a long time in parallel to your product development. And I think that this is what we teach today. We do a lot of workshops also with a lot of ecosystems and accelerators just to teach the Web3 founders how to do this right from the beginning, because it takes a long time to build your customer base, or the analysis of who are your customers, where will they come from, who will be your target countries even. And you can ask the Sweat team here, who are their biggest countries. I'm sure they wouldn't have guessed that these would be the top countries in Sweat. It's very surprising. And it's because you don't know exactly who would be your customer. You have to test a lot of things. You have to develop the customers in different areas before you ship the product. And this is also our mistake. And now we teach this lesson to all the companies that work with us.
And thank you for narrowing down the customers issue. We can talk endless time about the dApps, tech, but it depends on users. So where do we expect another billion users? Which vertical, which problem we have to solve in Web3 to attract yet another billion user? Is it social fi? Is it payments? Is it banking? What are your view on it?
I'll take that one. It's distribution. Most of the world accesses the internet on mobile. And mobile is not only the biggest platform for the internet, but the one which is the most hostile to Web3 when it comes to the two monopolistic companies that control most of mobile distribution. And so we have to overcome essentially what hurdles Apple and Google put in front of us to be able to present fully fledged products to customers. And in the absence of that, we have to find alternative distribution paths, which is why I'm sure there's going to be a panel about Telegram today at some point in this event, because that's one of the channels that has been extremely talked about over the last 6 months, because it does represent a relatively open distribution alternative on mobile.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think Telegram is 1 billion MAU now, and Line is also very actively launching. They want to be the tongue of Asia, right? They have 3 million MAU. Even arguably higher unit economics and less regulatory risk. So I think these two social networks being aggressive in opening up to Web3 applications and bring users to Web3 would be probably immediately short term one of the biggest opportunities I see, onboarding, potentially 1 billion users.
Diving deeper into the Tone ecosystem, can you elaborate on the biggest problem that they're facing? Just having a user base is not enough. Having distribution, yes, but I can see the big problem of long-term user acquisition. What are they going to do with all those top applications, top hunters? Maybe you can elaborate on more problems in Tone distribution, Tone user ecosystem.
Okay, so I think for the short to medium term, one way to think about it is, I think kind of what Tomer was saying before about how are you going to build your UA funnel, We come from mobile games, so UA funnels, preoccupy us quite a lot because that's how we think about building products. And the Ton ecosystem is a fantastic place to build the top of your funnel, right? Where you sweep absolutely the biggest possible, put as many users into that net as possible. And then it's up to you, through the various applications that you create, whether they're bots or what they are, to figure out how you filter through those users and segment them into the types of users that you want in your application. And that's not to say you don't want many different types of users in your application, but you need to figure out how your products that you're offering through the Ton ecosystem filter them through potentially to bring them to other places. Because maybe your HTML5 application on Ton is not the end game for you. Maybe you want to funnel them to a native web app, or you want to native mobile app, or some other kind of web or PC downloadable. But that's the top of your funnel, and it's your job to figure out how to bring them along that journey.
Yeah, I think user acquisition in crypto was 7 times more expensive than user acquisition in general audience, just because it's hard to find the people who have a crypto wallet. So you pay 7 times more per user. Now, when there is a world, let's say an ad network or an organic social network where everybody have crypto, then the user acquisition costs just like everybody else. It's people. It's not crypto wallets. You advertise or you do organic campaigns to people. And the most challenging part today in the Web3 ecosystem is to find the people who are part of the Web3 ecosystem. So you're not looking for wallets, you're looking for people. What you said about Telegram is super exciting, because once you are in a Telegram ecosystem, you know that everybody is part of the ecosystem. They have the MasterCard that can pay, or the Visa that can pay in your project without questioning that. Now you only have to question everything else. Are they the right customers? Are they actually going to like what I'm building? Are they actually the people that are right for my project? But the bigger question in Telegram is actually giving us this very, very accurate analysis of what we were all preoccupied with. Instead of looking for who's going to like our project and actually like what we do, everybody in user acquisition or marketing in general, we're only preoccupied with, do they have a wallet? Don't they? Are they in this ecosystem? Aren't they? And we're not focusing at all at what marketing should be about, which is are these the right people for us? Are they actually the right target audience for what we develop? And Telegram is actually giving us this window into the future where everybody have a wallet, like everybody have, you know, either Apple Pay or Google Pay or Visa or MasterCard. Okay, you don't question that in Web 2 marketing today. You don't question their payment options. They have a way to pay, right? In Web 3, it's not the situation, except for this window into the future that we see in Telegram. And now Telegram projects come and say, well, we are a nice game. Can you find those gamers that like this type of game? Hey, that's a good marketing question.
Yeah. If I can add to that, I think, you know, just as I was reading the title, The Race to a Billion Users, we could break it down. Is it the race to getting a billion users or the race to retaining a billion users? Because if you can retain 20 to 30% of your users after 30 days, it's a number you can be proud of, but that means you have to acquire more like 4.5 billion users. And that starts getting interesting because then people need a reason to come back as opposed to pure intrigue. And I like this discussion about the funnel. The top of funnel needs to be a raging success, but then the second part is these billion people need to have something in common that they're doing on a regular basis. We like to think that's moving as a way to get them into crypto, but more than that, we speak about spending on a regular basis, and a Web 2 wallet is not a strange phenomenon. So how can we get value stored and used? Not just stored as in locked up, but how do you get some balance into that wallet? And I think the other part is going to be getting off-ramps made easy and done well. Especially if you're launching a borderless product within many borders.
I like to do betting, so let's do quick betting. What patterns of human behavior will bring us those retained users?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
What verticals, what our common social problems that we solve in every day will bring us users? You just mentioned daily payments. Cool. I bet on SocialFi. I bet on some decentralized Instagram and maybe not Farcaster for different reasons. What is your bet?
My bet is that as I'm going to start over there, but I'm going to end over here. I think that as chains get abstracted, and I'm actually stealing this from the last panel I was just on. Someone much smarter than me said this, so if that's okay. But at the moment, if you're a startup building something on a certain chain, your competition are all the dApps on that same chain. So you're competing for the same users that are, for instance, on Polygon, for instance. But if this idea of interoperability really takes off, then all of a sudden every single dApp on every single chain becomes your competition, forcing you to either fail faster or build something that people actually want. As a wallet provider, I think if I can turn the question around, it's not so much my problem to think about what users want, but rather giving them access to very specific products that specialists are building, like mobile gaming or things like that, or other fintech products or DeFi products or edtech or whatever the case may be, anything that's basically built on chain, as long as they have an easy and universal way of accessing it. So either you're providing the gratifying experience or you're providing the gratifying experience to access the gratifying experience.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Coming back from the users to the blockchain industry, what do we need to develop else from infrastructure, from marketing, from education to boost the users onboarding, to develop our industry and to get more active daily users?
Like the leading portion comes from Asian countries, like China, India, and the Southeast countries, and followed by South American countries such as Brazil and Argentina. None of these regions speaks English as their native language, but most of the crypto world's knowledge and all this, advanced technologies are documented, are shared, and are spoken in English. I think this language is also another barrier for us to onboard more users. Yeah.
An interesting concept, just as you were saying that, Isabella, is I don't know if you guys saw that Link, one of Stripe's products that does the credit card payments. They're sort of capturing your payment history now, and you can just create a Link account. So when you authenticate on any site using your Gmail, for instance, then your Link payment card is automatically populated, almost like having your credit card details on your MacBook, but stored with Stripe. It would be interesting if you were to use social keys, like abstracting your key pair to your email address and automatically having a prompt that says, would you like to link your credit card, without having to go through the KYC and linking MoonPay or any all these on-ramp providers. But maybe that's a way that that onboarding part becomes simpler for a pure Web2 user as well.
I think one of the challenges, and I don't have a great answer for this, so I'm going to preface it by saying that one of the challenges is that we think a lot about digital property rights, because we think blockchain has unlocked this ability that we can now actually, own and interact with our own digital stuff. Not just value, but like objects as NFTs and digital content. And one of the challenges is that if we make the onboarding so slick, and a lot of game developers particularly have been thinking about this, they're like, our onboarding is so good, it's like Web 2. You can't even tell it's Web 3. But the problem is, you can't tell, you don't appreciate you actually own the stuff, because it still looks like the Web 2 one. So there's no difference visually to the rental experience and the ownership experience. And the reason that all of us Web3 natives are like, this is really cool, we own our stuff, is because we had to fight to own it. We had to, open our wallets. We had to go and bridge tokens to chains we'd never heard of, trust that the bridge will, like all this like trial by fire makes you actually really appreciate it once you own it. And that's not something that everybody wants to go through. Just like when we first started getting on the internet and that dial-up modem worked and you actually downloaded stuff, you're like, cool, I really appreciate this, because it was hard. And so how do we balance that challenge of taking people on a journey where they really appreciate the fact that they can own stuff versus making it very simple for them? And that is, that's education.
And I think you can't appreciate ownership if you don't realize that the balance that's reflected on your banking app isn't even yours.
Robby, do you think that we can enforce extra users with ownership/responsibility, or is just crypto-degen value that will not be incentivation for?
I think eventually everybody will understand it, but I think you only start to appreciate ownership when you understand and this goes back to what Melody was saying about how do we be 10x better. When you appreciate the fact that, okay, so now I own this piece of land in Sandbox, for example. I could take this piece of land in Sandbox and go to a third-party exchange and pledge it as collateral for a DeFi loan. Oh, I can't do that with, my character in Clash of Clans. Yeah. That's different. Now I understand there's a difference between this thing I bought that's digital and that other thing that I bought that's digital that actually I don't own.
I'd like to challenge that. I think that ownership is something cool and that we all want to own things without a mediating party. However, when you think about trustless worlds, you usually trust the businesses you're working with, okay? So a lot of times we say, okay, crypto is great because we can have, a transaction of money without anyone to trust in the middle. But in a game, it's not a two-sided marketplace, okay? A game is just a one-sided interaction with a business that gives me entertainment. And I usually trust it. So if a game offers me some ownership, if I don't trust the game, I won't play it anyway. If I trust the game, why do I need this ownership at all? So what I see in many cases is that ownership is not a big enough driver to give me something I don't have today. In gaming, I don't see this as a driver of users, and also in dApps, in DeFi, because people trust centralized exchanges. 95% of the people trade on centralized exchanges and only 5% trade on decentralized exchanges. It means that the trust exists in 95% of the trading population in crypto. And as a game, I believe that my gamers will trust me. that I'll hold their assets very well and never let go, and you know, respect their ownership, although it depends on me, and if I shut down the database, the asset is gone.
But I think it's back to the point, right? If we don't create a 10x better experience, why change? Like what I think Robby was saying, if it's just a game asset within the game, they cannot do anything else with it, yeah, like it's not that much better, so it doesn't matter. But if it's an asset, you can take it to another metaverse, you can take it to another game, you can take it to real life, and you can make IP with it, and all of a sudden it becomes a 10x better experience. That's what we're trying to build. I think only then people realize, oh wow, like digital ownership, NFTs, DeFi is way better. But this is not about what we can do today, so we really need to aspire to be like, hey, we need to deliver a 10x better experience.
I deeply agree that the experience has to be better. In order for a user to say, hey, what's in it for me? Oh, I get something better than just a Web2 game, right? Or just a Web2 trading platform. The only thing I'm challenging is, does the ownership create this 10x better experience, or we need something else? This is what I'm challenging.
So I think my definition of ownership presupposes the Web3 paradigm of ownership. So that also includes interoperability in there, which I didn't flag. But yes, the idea that basically these are open assets. And that's the material difference, because not only do you own it, but you have all the benefits of ownership that we assume in the physical world, which is I can do with it what I want, basically.
I think our pre-context is like we have the unique technology, right? It's a decentralized ledger. If you're not talking about using this to incorporate that experience, then you're talking about a Web2 experience, maybe, you know, a better UI, a better game, a better IP, sure, but it's not really relevant to how we're using this unique technology to create something like 10x better.
So yeah, if I connect to what Robby has said, the composability, in Melody, what you said, the composability indeed is a feature, or the standardization of the protocol. That's the standardization of the asset. So I don't want to call it in Web3 names because that's tech. I want to call it in product perspective, and we have a product manager here. I want to call it in product perspective. What is it from the eyes of the user? And from the eyes of the user, it's not ownership, right? It's the standardization of the assets so they are usable in multiple businesses, okay? So with multiple businesses, I can use the same asset because they use standard protocol. And what I see as a data person from my side is that the standardization of transactions, of assets, of different types of prototypes of, let's say, the NFT, it's just a standard protocol saying, here is how you define an asset, and this is why it's tradable between all those businesses, so you can actually trade your game asset in different games because it's following this specific interface of ERC 721.
I think we discovered just a topic for another mastermind where we can discover user behavior. We're about to wrapping up our panel, and before the end, I want to ask you, can you name particular dApps that you would recommend as a long-term, healthy user acquisition approach? We observe the problem in Tone, for example, with this over-incentivization of users, with the no long-lasting program vision, what to do with them later on. So can you name some dApps that incentivize users, that onboard them and keep them for long today? Not in 5-10 years, today.
Okay, I'll jump in.
Thank you.
I'm not going to name specific names, but I'm going to go with our category, which tends to be games. Because the thing about games is that most people who play games because they enjoy either the gameplay of the game itself or they enjoy the community that's playing the game together with them. And the Web3 features that we see in most of these games function as retention and reward mechanisms, but not necessarily the primary feature of the game. It's there to make it stickier, because games have a classic problem, which is low retention, which, you know, Michael, you were talking about before. games have like 2% day 30 retention historically. But incentives can help keep users involved and engaged so they stick around for the other stuff, right? So I would put games in that category, but the reason that you see Web3 games with relatively small audiences today are primarily, one, distribution problem, and two, because games are very personal. And so games will always tend to only attract relatively small audiences. And so there's only been a handful of massive global mobile casual games, but otherwise, even the biggest, AAA console games, people are always like, oh, when is there going to be the next Call of Duty or something like that? Call of Duty doesn't actually have that many players, if you really think about it. It's a very profitable business. But in terms of player base on a global scale, it's quite small because these products appeal to very devoted niche audiences. And that's fine because actually Web3 does that really well.
Thank you, Robby.
Yeah, I'm going to also not mention names, but there's...
Mention Sweat.
Okay, let me start. Right, I can't really hide that one. So the easiest way to walk into crypto is just to walk. So someone asked me the other day, what would it take to actually build a movement economy? What would it take to get there, to have the world see that and live in it? And the example I gave is it's like this room, but imagine the lights are off and there's electricity, potential electricity in all the wires, but it's just a switch that needs to be turned on. Like people are already walking, that's electricity in the wires. It's the discussions we're having throughout the day about interoperability, an easy and understandable UX, a safe but fast way for Web2 users, as Isabella was saying, to get started, which I think is going to be the catalyst. But people have been walking for as long as they've been breathing. So that's sort of an easy approach to take. But just something completely different that I've seen in terms of retaining users is this idea of making crypto relatable to what you're doing on a regular basis and have been doing from a financial perspective, which is transacting with your regular bank account. And using payment gateways not to move money, but to just do account verification with your local bank, and just doing something really simple but useful, like a free budgeting tool for you, just by pulling your data that you consent to, and then starting to make Web3 style recommendations to something relatable, like for someone else that's also 35 years old, living in the zip code with 3 kids and that likes trail running, you're saving 20% less than the average person. Okay, that's really interesting, but here's a couple of recommendations of how you can start saving and compounding those savings straight away without, in South Africa, for instance, a savings account where the interest is less than inflation. And that's some of the beautiful things that crypto can bring to the fore quite easily with very little barrier to entry or understanding finances.
Thank you, Michael. Isabel, can you share some?
Yeah.
Can you be more specific?
Sure. Not too specific. I'm also not going to name the dApps, but I guess my answers are quite different from the previous speakers. I can think of 2. One is that I know there's a dApp in India that is more like doing some like psychic and spiritual applications where users just, because India is they have a very strong religious belief, so they just interact with the app and more like just pray for the family, pray for the future, and that has a very, very strong user retention and a very strong user stickiness. If to answer your question, the other one is that in some countries, again, for example, in South American countries like Brazil, Cuba, Argentina, because their countries are undergoing some very unstable fluctuations and the economy is very weak. So actually, my friends doing business there, they pay in crypto, and all their money are not stored in bank because they don't trust the national banks. although they have
I'm from Ukraine. This is exactly what we are doing.
yeah. So I think these two are very special cases, but it definitely reveals some elements and some features that that makes users stay and get sticky to the crypto world, because that is where the crypto really help them solve their problems that they need on a daily basis. Yeah.
I feel like I don't even have that many of a strong crypto use cases. Like I think the reason why the first time I learned about crypto, I didn't think it was that interesting, Bitcoin, because I have a perfect banking solutions. But the first time that I became interested in crypto is because I was traveling and I was paying so much banking fees when I travel abroad. And I was like, damn, I prefer just if a settlement network is built on crypto, I can bypass all the banks. So I think for me, cross-border payment and reduce the cost of payment, reduce the cost of cross-border transactions is something that I think will have a very, very long, because of the profitability involved, and I think the savings potential that can happen for users. I think it will have a very long-lasting use case. But incentivized user, I think it comes under the product. The product has to be really good after incentivization that you are still here to use. And I think it's natural selection. Some of the existing big dApps exist today and have been around for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I think these are just living proofs that they don't need incentivization and they are self-sustaining.
Yeah, in the perfect universe, we need product that don't need incentivization. Totally agree. We're about to wrap it up completely. Dear audience, please applaud our speakers. They shared a lot today.